All right, here we go again. Buckle up, rough roads ahead. I think some of what I'm experiencing is I don't heat up my home at night. So when I come outside or come out my room into the regular part of the house, it's like 64 degrees or something. 63. I think it was 62 today. So I think my body doesn't like that. Right. So I have to have it up around 70. Right. So it's just starting to warm up in here. It's about 70 now. And I notice I feel a lot better. Right. So, right. So I just had a discussion with my brother, and just a light discussion, and you know, we're not. It's just frustrating because the strategy that the administration is taking is burning up veracity, validity. I don't want to say veracity, but validity, uh, power. Just because like they aren't choosing their battles. The course is going to lead to a dead end, which means they're going to power something and waste that power. Now, there's a strategy in that also, but again, I don't see that being right. Again, I slept pretty good last night, thank God. I thought I was going to have a better day today, but pretty rough. I got to wait for I have to wait for the steroid treatment. It's not right away. It's going to warm up, and then I'll get my steroid treatment. I also found that if I need any furniture taken off, that there are people that will take it for charity. They'll come and get it. So I think my brother wanted me to stay here. I don't. It's just not. It's strange. It's just strange. My relationship with my brother is strange. But the weird part is, I think he's going to end up getting surgery, and his wife's going to end up getting surgery in a place I was going to get surgery. Right. 4 years later, again, here he's been poo-pooing it to me. You don't want to get surgery. And I did eat soy yesterday, so again, it could be kicking in a little bit. I think it's causing a little bit of inflammation. It doesn't always do that, but again, I think this is related to Persian Gulf syndrome, this flare-up thing, right? And that causes this. I was able actually to sit on my side last night and go through all of that. I was kind of laying in the bed on my side, and I was laying on a pillow, and I was able to be comfortable enough to, kind of move that thing for the Pope. I was kind of like, oh shit, I shouldn't be saying that, I guess, in that context. But I was discovering some things that are possible. So we'll get back to the administration. So a lot of the arguments are like inane. I can't help but say that. And like he what he's banking on is that the Supreme Court says that the president is the supreme ruler, right? And say if they want him not to be, they have to explicitly, like the Roe versus Wade decision, but theoretically about Trump and his rule. And I don't think they're going to find that. So he drafts an order that in no way can be valid. But actually, the Roe versus Wade thing would kick in. Right. The Senate and the House would have to change it, which, I don't think they can. And I don't know if they will. Again, it's better that the administration not test the limits of the relationship with the Senate and the House. They're trying to reconnect to my brain. Well, mind meld, spiritually. Like you try to get you comfortable with a conversation, and then they start willing a bunch of things. Right? And it's a metaphysical connection. That's why they bring their women around and try to connect them to a man, and then try to get them to do what they want them to do illegally or criminally at a certain point. We're getting a lot of metaphysics there. I love the doctor I have. Somebody's saying I can do surgery here, but I just don't. This is pretty intense, right? Now, quite possibly I could be living somewhere else. I don't know. I kind of found an apartment near my brother that I could kind of live in, and I guess I got to give my brother some space because he's suffering some back issues now. Right. I already told him to get massage. I think I already told him that running like that isn't good for the back or the body because it just pounds the body. He's just obsessed with getting his blood pressure down. And I really believe the best way to do it is just to continually walk. You have to walk a lot, and you have to do it like 3 times a day. And not a lot. I mean, if you do 3 times half hour a day, I think you'll get your blood pressure down. And when I was in, I left out of Oklahoma, and when I was there, it was warm, and I was thinking maybe it'd be better if it was a little cooler. Get out of these. Out of the allergy season, but it didn't work because there's different allergies here. Right? At least if it's honest when I'm reading. Right? Who knows? People mess up things all the time. It could be a wrong reading because I'm seeing that it's that the allergens are low or they're high. And yeah, I'm just trying to get some comfort back. I think I will, steroid treatment, and I'm just a little freaked out about it being 4 years later. That part, they kept me asleep for 4 years, and I didn't really seek treatment. We all know what that means. So we have about 4 days till it warms up, 4 24-hour blocks. Maybe even a little less. I don't know. That 1 day isn't too bad. So they grabbed me a quinoa and brown rice. Why did you grab me quinoa and brown rice? I don't think that was on my thing. You guys are probably healthier. Oh. Well, I did, when I was in Amarillo, there was a marker of something that could cause inflammation up. It wasn't anything they could put their fingers on. It's like, it's halfway there, but not really there. Like if there was other markers up, they could have said it was rheumatoid or this or that, right? So it could have been. I was told years ago that if you have inflammation, some of those markers are sometimes a byproduct of the inflammation. If it's not like definitively something like lupus or something like that. Right? It kicks the body into something weird like that. So it's just weird to me that all of a sudden, I just started tightening it up and wouldn't stop. And again, that happened in Amarillo too. So, I'm just trying to say with the administration, if they do less friction, and the thing about the Ukraine. It's just, again, in an election year, you can, an election when you campaign, you can do a lot of that. But when you get in the office, what you're doing is you're actually a source of the friction now. Like they saw Biden as being the reason that the friction existed. And I guess you're trying to do the same thing with Zelensky, but it's a little different mechanism because you're the president now. So you're pointing at things, and it partially goes back on the president. Again, people in the markets want it quiet. They want it easy. They want it smooth. That's what was weird, because that was the one benefit that Biden had, is he tried not to make noise. But it didn't work. That's partially why the market stayed up. Through all that, even though there was a lot of reason that it shouldn't. Because he was trying to minimize any, instability, even though there is. And it's very strange. I think Judge Rodriguez or something like that. I don't know if it's a Spanish name. I think that was the name. And that thing, she's trying to get the attorney to admit to some things. And again, the idea is that your arguments in the courtroom are kind of ludicrous. All right. Agreed, sir. So she kind of said, you have to admit, the trans one, right? She says you have to admit. Right. Well, because the attorney can't defend certain parts of that. And I said that to you. You're saying things that you can't support with evidence. Well, the only way I see that the trans things works is that you could develop a medical disability off of it. And say because it requires such focus as to hormones, that anybody on hormones could suffer a loss of those hormones. And that, I'm not trying to be evil or anything. I mean, it's reality. If we go into like a war they're having in Ukraine, we may not be able to get hormones to the front. Right. And under the Bradley Manning decisions, they said that if they don't receive the hormones, that it could cause suicide. So there is a concern with that, like a medical concern, like a diabetic needing insulin. And I think diabetes is a medical disability that would, preclude somebody from enlistment and would also cause them to be medically retired. Agreed. Agreed, sir. Now, what they do is there's a whole thing that they do to somebody to cause them not to see. And again, the president's having the same problem. They're not seeing. Right. So I believe they're being played by somebody. Well, it's just much too bombastic. And now we're at the point where I think Zelensky shares in the responsibility. But again, to get to the point where you solely blame Zelensky, I don't know. Again, I even think the United Nations has blame in it. It should have forced a little more investigation as to what Russia's complaints were. Well, because that's how that thing, I think, really grew. Well, it looked like the world stage was looking to get rid of Putin. May have been willing to go to war to do it. I don't believe any land is worth killing for. I don't believe at this stage of the game NATO membership is necessary. So there's a lot there as to what can be negotiated outside of the land issue. The problem with the land issue is that all those European countries no longer see it as a Ukrainian issue. At that point. I have a problem with Ukraine taking meeting, if you don't know. I have a problem with Ukraine taking Russian territory just as the Russians suggested negotiations. But again, the idea of seeking peace requires a more balanced approach. I don't have a problem with a negotiation where Russia gets certain things. But the way that it's happening now is questionable. Even if we get to the same point. Again, when that happens, the market looks at it. So again, we have a lot of things playing out together. We had all that inflation and the market stayed up. Right. I don't think the war should have went that long. Yeah, I have problems with it. It's like a gambler's fever. I mean, Europe may have gotten to the point where they should have possibly built up for war much sooner. Which means, they probably could have taken Russia. Right. I mean, that's real. Because they were just fighting Ukraine at that point. So what we're doing is we're running into roadblocks. Now, the president may be just bargaining chips, give them the, present the worst case offer, and then work from there. Like the lowball bid in a real estate deal. Right. And just be appreciative if they get anything. Right. Well, when the president presents, well, we want to get paid back, which is understandable. But what doesn't happen is that it says, but we're going to reward you with this. Right. No, I would say I'm not. Well, in certain ways, when I was in because something just came up. When I was in Amarillo, I was probably worse off than I am right now. I was much more cramped and all of that. But I do have a lot of inflammation right now. I appear to be getting some of that cramping under control. But again, they kept the battle going instead of just letting me live a normal life. And I couldn't get to my treatment. So what I'm hoping for is warmer weather and see what that does, because that could actually reverse some of the inflammation, and I think it was. I mean, we had a couple warm days, and I actually got outside, walked around a little bit. I think I felt better. Again, it improved my sinuses and everything. Thank you, Larry. Well, things will thank me because I'm saying what needs to get said. Again, it's just the administration needs to power a lot of stuff, and I'm glad that they listened to me about the stats, and they present the stats in a way that shows what's actually happening. Right. Well, you're actually the administration. One of the things points that I don't think you came out, that the administration is actually seeking the more difficult deportation. Like, instead of going, of course, everyday people will get deported, and if you have a removal order, or if you have, if you're in the vicinity of a criminal when the criminal's getting arrested, to be deported, right, or gang member alien, you can get deported if you're, if that's where your case is. Right. But the administration is actually seeking the more serious cases to deport. And that causes the deportation sometimes to be a little bit more difficult. You're kind of going after a fugitive versus just an everyday person roundup, right? Which I think is going to start pretty soon. I think the states will probably focus on, employers that are usually where it goes. Employers that are employing large numbers of undocumented employees that don't have a right to work and should be, are on, on some sort of deportation system or under the deportation system. Like they're not awaiting a hearing or something like that. Like if you're awaiting a hearing, they're not going to deport you, right? Unless something comes up. Thank you, sir. So again, the idea is that the administration is actually actively moving on the most serious cases, which causes the deportation to be a bit tricky. No, I'm not sure what leaks we're looking at. As to, they were saying there were leaks. I don't know if they were valid or like a leak or, like I said, sometimes they call an apartment complex manager and let them in because they've helped them on other cases and they may have leaked it. Or somebody in that office. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I can feel what's causing the inflammation and everything. But getting under control is another thing. Right. And again, one of the first things is the warmer weather. I also uncramped my legs, and I just did it a little bit more on the right side yesterday, which kind of helped me have a more stable gait. But again, that left leg needs to fire back up again, I think, at this point. I see what's happening. Like in my mind now, I can see what's happening when I think of the surgery. Somebody operated me, I believe, or will, it could be a spell and all that. That works with that operation. Right. So I can actually move it aside now and see the brightness of the possibilities. Right. Really, considering the last 4 years I had, just would have been better if I just could have drove that van and trailer east. Go east, young man. Right. That's what I should have done. I had it all set up right so I can at least get to a new community. I just couldn't find a place to live that I thought I could afford. I can still feel pushback from my brother, like, I don't want you in my area. I have, probably just something in his head that shouldn't be there. Right. No, they do everything they can to cause a disruption. Again, they can sit there online, listen to our phone calls, and will things to happen. So they're using spells and evil magic on the American public while they're on a wiretap. And then also, he thinks he's just in a normal life and there's people around him using PSYOP to shift his brain. Right? Anybody can do PSYOP, even like basic cops, especially ones that have been in war. They're kind of whacked, from torturing people in war. No, it's a tremendous sadness what happened in Ukraine. and in Russia with their people. I mourn the loss for both nations. Thank you. I mean, what kind of life is that? You know, like years in war. I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I think, like I say, I did. The answer was before the war, and I don't know if anybody saw my posts or not. I tried to send them to Russia on their social media to say, you know, just keep pushing to the United Nations, keep making your complaints. Well, the United Nations could have said those regions, well, because now the war is fought, okay? So now there's a loss in Russia, and they want payment for that loss. Same thing with Ukraine. Before the war, it was just kind of this neutral thing. And the United Nations could have came in and said those regions are now, you know, we could do a vote in the Security Council to avoid war. We're going to pick up those regions and make them, you know, kind of autonomous zones. Correct, sir. And at least Russia, you know, could say, well, and we could say to Russia, look, we're trying to deal with this. We're going to, the Ukraine no longer solely owns those regions for now, at least, based upon your complaints. And we're going to make those autonomous zones, and we're going to send in UN troops. Right. And then UN investigators with those troops. Non-aligned force. I saw something online the other day. I don't know if it's true. Again, we have AI, we have spies creating things. And it said that, you know, there was murders by Ukrainians of Russian people. I guess we could call them ethnic Russian. It doesn't make much sense because we're all really the the same ethnicity. It's just, you know, where you align. Well, I think Russia was disrespected. I do. I mean, I don't agree with the aggression, but I believe the Russia was disrespected in that process.